Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Trax and CoinJar Invitational Championship. We've got something really cool for you here tonight. I'm super excited about it. I'm Tyler Newitt. With me on the commentary for you tonight is Jonathan Grabowski, and working the cameras for us is going to be the fabulous Marco Barbanera. As I said at the top, we've got something really cool in store for you today. This is a brand new championship to iRacing, and it's going to be something that's available to the general public before too long, starting in May. But before that, we have this Invitational Championship coming to you, which is going to feature some of your favorite iRacing content creators. We've got a stout lineup, which we will get through in a little bit. But we are here at the Silverstone circuit, virtually, of course. And the drivers are out on track for a practice session in their GTE cars. Going to be a variety of cars in this Invitational Championship for you. It's the GTEs this time out, and we'll get to see the Formula 3 cars, I believe, at the next showing. So, Jonathan, super exciting show for the folks here today. What are you looking forward to out there tonight?
I'm super excited because we're going to see, today we're going to see one type of car, and then a couple weeks from now we're going to see a completely different type of car in a Formula 3, and also a complete reverse grid. I mean, how exciting is that? We're seeing some of the best drivers in sim racing, people who are, professional esports racers. We have professional drivers. We have a whole wide variety. We have Indy 500 winners. I mean, you can't get any better than that. And in GT cars on a great track like Silverstone, I mean, excitement is the word here.
Well, you started to hit at something there, John, that I think is really exciting about this is we've got some pro-level drivers in here, and we've got some streamers and content creators who maybe aren't the quickest drivers in the world in iRacing. And of course, as you mentioned, we have the reverse grid, but that's not the only competitive balance format that we're going to see in play here today. We're going to see the introduction of the Trax Rivals system, which is a super cool idea that the folks over at Trax have brought to the table. It's going to be something that you'll see later on in their open championships, but what it is each of these drivers, while out on track and competing against all of the other cars on track, are competing against one other driver in particular. And there are prizes in place for those drivers who can out-qualify their rivals, who can finish ahead of their rivals. So there's a lot to play for everybody here. So even if your favorite content creator, the reason you're watching, isn't expected to be out near the front, which, let's be fair, that's the way it works. There's a wide variety of skill levels at play, as always in sim racing. But even if they're not expected to be out at the front, you can still see them fighting for something. Really, really cool concept. And we are, in just a moment, going to get the chance to talk to one of the masterminds behind the Rivals concept and the championship as a whole. Jamie Skella, are you with us?
I am. Thanks for having me.
Well, Jamie, thanks for having us along for the ride on this one. We are super excited to bring this to the people. We were just going over the Rivals system. Tell us a little bit about how this Trax Championship came together, and kind of the idea behind it. It's clearly competitive, high-level competitive sim racing for everybody seems to be the driving force here.
I think first and foremost, we wanted to create an opportunity for highly engaging, highly entertaining racing all across the track from the front to the back. So obviously having some of these big names in play is really exciting. Tony Kanaan, Indianapolis winner. We've got Mitchell McLeod, who was a driver that I sponsored with a former business for the V8 Supercar Series way back in 2011. We've both been iRacing since about 2009. So the big names are great, but we understood, as I'm sure you alluded to, that with such a disparate sort of range of skill, that we need to keep it exciting. We need to maintain that driver interest and make sure that we give ourselves the most awesome opportunities for video content later, for highlight content. And so The Rivals concept is, in essence, an ability to make sure that we can create that sort of that thrill all across the track with individual battles, sort of little championships, mini championships within the larger championship happening all across the circuit. So super excited to see it come to life in this first Invitational, and of course, this is precisely how it will be run for all of our public Open Championships, which start in May next month as well.
Yeah, and could you tell the folks watching how they can take part in this? Because it really is something that is open for anybody who's involved in iRacing and sim racing to be able to participate.
Absolutely. So we're going to have an elastic number of divisions. So we're initially going to be building out divisions based on iRating and signing up with your iRating as one of the prerequisites. Grid sizes will vary between Formula and GT, and over time we'll start to build out what those Formula and GT championships look like as well. So at the moment, people sort of voting with their registrations are saying GT should be preference for our May championship. The very next month we'll probably do Formula and GTE, and then we'll move on to specific vehicle types within as we start to broaden and get bigger and increase prize money as well throughout that period. But for anybody that does want to get signed up and race in these championships, whether you're going to be in that top division or not is irrelevant. There are going to be broadcasts, there are going to be highlight reels produced, and in fact you can win more Bitcoin just for being featured in those highlight reels. So you don't even need to beat your rival, and you don't certainly need to finish on the podium for the championship. You can earn some Bitcoin just by pulling off some great moves, basically. And you can start that journey by heading to trax.racing. That's it. That's the URL, trax.racing. You'll see our website right now. You'll see the Apex, this stream live on the homepage as well. You can click through to the CoinJar area to check out all of our head-to-head matchups for today's race. You'll see who Emery's facing up against, so on and so forth. And there's also obviously that call to action littered throughout so that you can register as a driver for our May championships and beyond.
Well, fantastic, Jamie, and we'll get right to the action here as we're winding down in the minutes in qualifying. But before we let you go, who's your pick to win?
Ooh, look, I think there might be a little bit of chaos out track. It's going to be really hard to call. My co-founder Lewis thinks that Yuri is actually in the box seat, which I think will be surprising for a lot of people. But we'll see how he goes. Look, there's some really quick guys out there. Obviously, pro level, some really high quality sim racers as well who have done very well in online series over the years. So it's going to be exciting.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for joining us in the booth, Jamie. We look forward to calling this championship for you, and I think I can definitely say I'm looking forward to the Trax Racing series as a whole, and I can't wait to get started.
Thanks, guys. Speak soon.
So, Jonathan, we while we were talking to Jamie, we had the images of qualifying up on the screens for everybody. And we can see on the timing tower that looks like just about everyone has set their times. We've got 18 cars who have set times. For those of you watching, obviously, we talked about the rival system a little bit there. The colors on the timing tower are how you can identify the drivers who are rivals for today's race and for the championship. So, as Jamie mentioned, you can also go to their website, trax.racing, and see the list of rivals there. But just looking at the tower at the moment, John, there's some really close rival battles in qualifying, including the top two, Yuri Kazdorp, Madison Down, the two quickest drivers out there today, and they are set up to be rivals for this championship.
Yeah, Yuri Kazdorp is flying in practice, and funny enough, his rival right behind him, Madison Down, is in second place. Then you look at fourth and fifth, the two rivals of Emery and Daniel Morad. Then you go down the timing tower a little bit. You see in 15th and 16th, you have Josh Miz and Roden. And so you're seeing rivals, and even in 10th and 11th, TK, otherwise known as Tony Kanaan and Sam Soyd, are right neck and neck with each other. It's going to be a competitive battle. And the whole idea of this rivals is really interesting because maybe not everyone's on the same, level iRacing wise, but you're going to be rated close against someone who, is just as good as you.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm just looking right now, and the biggest gap I can see at the moment between rivals is going to be Ribs up in third and Neto Nascimento in eighth, which is there's only 4 drivers between them. So really, they've done a good job, I think, of pegging these rivals for the race here today. Obviously, a lot of these drivers are pretty popular, so you do have a pretty good sense of their speed. But it seems like we're going to have some really interesting matchups out there today. Obviously, as we mentioned, there are prizes available for beating your rivals in qualifying and in the race in the real series. There's a little more on the line, I have to say, for our rivals in today's race. If a driver today, or in the championship rather, beats their rival, they're going to be set up with $100 in Bitcoin. That's courtesy of CoinJar, who sponsors the series and puts on all of this for everybody. There you go. Trax and CoinJar, excuse me. So lots of great prizes available for the folks competing today. And of course, for you at home, if you want to participate in the Open Series, as Jamie mentioned, starting in May, it's going to be really exciting. I believe qualifying has just come to a close, so we should have a rundown for you in just a moment. We got 20 seconds left. Yeah, just finishing up.
But as you were saying, Tyler, we're getting back to qualifying. We were talking about and even prior, we were talking about all the drivers, all the credentials we have in this series. And, we were doing our homework about, getting some facts on each driver. And Yuri Kasdorp's little fun fact about him was he's a sim driver for myself at the moment. So he's not racing for any team. He's not racing on any esports team. It's just him. And that's kind of a cool story of a guy who's, essentially on his own taking on some of the big boys.
Well, of course, and his rival today, as we see the qualifying results up on the board, Yuri Kasdorp, as you mentioned, P1, Madison Down, is very much a big name in the iRacing community, does data packs for VRS, I know, races in some of the Supercars series and other big high-level series on iRacing. So Madison Down is no slouch. But he's got his work cut out for him, it looks like, qualifying in second, but almost half a second off of Yuri Kasdorp on pole. Ahmed Garib, that's Ribs, qualifies in third. Emily Jones in fourth. Daniel Morad, her rival, will start in fifth. Tyson Meyer got the best of his rival Russell Barnes. He'll start in sixth. Mitch McLeod in seventh, ahead of Neso Nascimento. Russell Barnes, as we mentioned, Tyson Meyer, his rival, he's got a couple spots to make up to try and claim his $100 in Bitcoin. Tony Kanaan, TK Indy 500 winner, qualifying 10th ahead of his rival David Sampson. That's Samsoid. Trevor Jackson, Sakame, qualifies in 12th ahead of Keenan Kusin, Mr. Aero HD. Violet Miller, Violet GT, qualified in 14th ahead of a couple of rivals, Josh Edwards and Blake Dalton. That's Joshamus and Pondon. Daniel Gray qualified in 17th, and last on the grid is going to be Martin McDermott. That's Pheasant. So I think the cars are already rolling. Yes, they are. So we are just about to get underway. Things happening rapid fire here. Going to be a lot to keep our eyes on, John. So which rival pairing are you watching? What are you keeping your eye on as this is another spot now down into 17th place? But out front, it is Yuri Kasdorp who is stretching his legs. He's got about 3/4 of a second already on Madison Down, who is absolutely no slouch.
There's Nascimento trying to make a move on the inside. Will he?
Well, as they head up into Maggots and Beckett's, that is a tough place to make that work. And Corketized was well off to the left side there. But he's going to hold on to that position, actually. That was solid driving by Corketized to stay ahead of Neto Nascimento there. As we see a little bit further up the road, another rival battle there. That's Daniel Morad, real world racing driver, of course, winner of the Rolex 24 Hours back in 2017, which I was in the grandstand for. It's very exciting. But right now, he is facing off against a very stout sim racing field, and specifically Emily Jones-Emery, who is right in behind him. Here is Nato Nascimento now battling with Mitch McLeod. This kind of group of cars here seems to really be going at it.
On the front stretch here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was Tony Kanaan working his way up the middle and gaining, I think, 2 spots there. So TK putting on a charge there.
Ooh, Nascimento with a really wide line then comes in. Really aggressive racing here for 8th, 9th, 10th.
Yeah, this is the battle to watch at the moment. They are really going at it. There's Russell Barnes, the Finding Speed channel. He is working his way forward just a little bit as Nato Nascimento is really struggling, I think, to find a little bit of pace here. And seems to be just a little bit the cork in the bottle of this group as TK's had some trouble. He's dropping back now. Lost 3 spots there. He was up as high as 8th at some point, I think.
On board with Trevor Jackson right now. And his fight for 11th. And he looks to the inside of Samsoid. And will he get it? Looks like he does.
Thanks to everybody on the chat. Glad to have you watching. I saw some of the drivers were participating in the chat as well before the race started. Obviously, they're a little bit preoccupied at the moment, but thanks to everyone watching on Apex Racing TV, as we see yet another battle involving Neto Nascimento. I think that's, yes, that's Russell Barnes in there behind him in the Finding Speed car. That is a sharp livery on the phone. Oh, a little knowledge from Neto Nascimento on Mitch McLeod, reminiscent of Formula 1 incident I remember at Silverstone from the not too distant past. We get a replay here. This is who we've been focused on for much of the race, Neto Nascimento. So he has 2 battling groups of rivals comfortably between himself and his nearest competitor. Looks like the top 5 have really broken away. Yuri Kazdort, Madison Down, Daniel Morad, Emery, and Ribs all stretching away a little bit, and Yuri and Madison have really broken away from these 3 even. So those 2 definitely setting the pace here, but that's what we keep talking about. You hear us mentioning rivals. If you missed the start of the broadcast, each of these drivers is paired up against another one of the drivers in the field with prizes available and bonuses for finishing ahead of their rivals. So even though Yuri Kazdorp and Madison Down seem to have the number on the field at the moment, everyone here is still battling for prizes. They've got a 50-50 chance at coming away from today with some money in their pockets. So definitely some fierce battling that we're seeing here. Riding on board with Ribs, but really the battle is out in front of them. Emery, Daniel Morad going at it pretty heavily.
And just remember, in regards to the rivals, you know, each driver is assigned a rival based on their closest I rating. So it's someone you're neck and neck with in regards to I rating wise. And if you finish ahead of them, you get 1 extra, championship point. And if you qualify ahead of them, just remember that you get an extra championship point as well. So there's a lot of points at stake, as this series goes on and on.
Ooh, that is Samsoid running wide, and I think he got a nudge from his rival TK. So Tony Kanaan not afraid to use a little beating and banging to get ahead in his rival battle. We'll have to see if Samsoid can recover. Obviously, he was ahead of TK at some point in this race, so those 2 pretty close on pace, but at the moment, Neto Nascimento is in between him as we see the resumption of this battle for 3rd. And back to Neto. That's all right. Marco, just trying to keep us on our toes here, flipping between the cameras for us. There's just too much action, John. It's a lot
going on.
Where to look.
On board now with Daniel Morad, looking out, seeing what's looking out his, rear wing, looking at Emery. Morad, one of the pro drivers, the in real life professional drivers. He is a Rolex 24 winner, as you mentioned, and in a 2007 American Formula BMW champ.
Yeah, definitely an accomplished Canadian, especially in sports car racing the last few years. He's back with Allegra, I believe, in IMSA, who he won the Rolex with. Done a lot of racing in GT cars in the U.S. Very, very talented driver. So he is no slouch, and no slouch when it comes to sim racing either. I was watching a little bit of his stream before this started. Man, his sim rig is something I think most of us would envy, including his voice-activated race fans. When it started getting a little hot in the sim rig, he just voice-activated the fans, and they cooled him down. So I think most of us would like to be in Daniel Morad's sim rig. What's going on here? We are looking at Mitchell McLeod working his way back through the field. Obviously, we saw his spin earlier off the nose of Neto Nascimento, and that is Daniel Gray, who he's going by in the lone Ferrari in the field.
McLeod's down 8 spots from where he started in this race and looking to build his way back up after that incident. And just remember, too, Tyler, is that we're going to have a reverse grid for the second race.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, these drivers still want to finish well and beat their rivals, but we're definitely going to see some little bit of chaos with the full reverse, as is always the case. And you know, it's good racing for it as we see Ribs trying to insert himself in the middle of this rival battle for 4th place. Because remember, it's not just about the rival battles. There are, of course, championship points on offer. And these drivers are competing for an overall championship, which pays the big bucks, or the big bitcoins, as it were, I suppose. So every position counts for sure. So definitely wouldn't concern himself with getting in the way of a rival battle. Daniel Morad just set his quickest lap of the race. In fact, I think he was the quickest car on track that time by. Nope, Yuri Kasdorp was, the quickest car on track.
He is building time. Look at, he's about 3.5 seconds ahead of Madison Down.
Yeah, that gap continues to grow, and I've said it already today, but Madison Down is no slouch. I've done a lot of racing in the iRacing V8 supercars, which Madison does the data packs for our friends over at VRS, and I tell you what, when I can get within like 1.5 seconds of Madison's time, I know I'm gonna have a good week. So gives you a frame of reference for kind of the skill level, not just of Madison, but of Yuri Kasdorp as well, who is putting a stomping on the field at the moment. As you mentioned, 3.5 seconds now, that gap to Madison Down in second, and Daniel Morad another further second back.
On board with Violet GT, and something that I want to bring up, and myself and our fellow colleague Jim Hodgson here at Apex Racer were talking about this last week, is that we saw more female iRacers. And how cool is it to have in this all-star cast 2 really fast female iRacers, Violet and Emerald? I mean, you can't be that. Ooh.
That was.
And as we were watching,
yeah.
And as I was saying, we got to watch Sakame do a little dancing, get a little loose.
That is Trevor Jackson, and yeah, just who hasn't carried a little too much speed through Maggots and Beckett's and found yourself in the grass on the other end? I think it's just a rite of passage at Silverstone. Everybody's got to do it, but no, I couldn't agree with you more, John. And it all starts with representation, doesn't it? You know, obviously, a lot of these drivers have a substantial following, but you know, you just hope that everybody watching, you know, regardless of you know, regardless of gender or race or anything like that, sees this and thinks, I want to do that. You know, it's that's how you grow a sport, and I think everyone here is passionate about sim racing, and you know, if you limit yourself, you're not gonna grow at all. So really cool to see two, as you mentioned, really quick female drivers. Emery holding down 5th place at the moment, trying to work back by Ribs. She's about a second back now after Ribs made that pass. But yeah, really cool to have them in this all-star cast of drivers. And really, it is an all-star cast. Some of the most popular figures in the iRacing community.
On board with someone who we've mentioned a few times, Neto Nascimento, as he tries to line up a move on Samsoy.
Yeah, just about halfway through this race. In fact, a little bit past halfway. 25 minutes this first race. Neto, to say he's had an up and down day, I think would be a bit of an understatement. Currently 2 spots down from where he started, and as we mentioned, his rival Ribs is putting the beat down on at the moment, up in 4th place. I don't believe there's any bonus to beating your rival by the most positions, but if there were, Ribs would be claiming it now. Maybe that's one for the folks at Trax to think about for the future.
There we go.
So, yeah, some sort of prize for how well you can beat your rival. But someone who is a little bit closer to their rival is Madison Down. Though if you look at the gap on track, you'd be find that a little bit hard to believe. As Yuri Kasdorp has stretched that gap out to almost 5 seconds now. Now, the question is, how is Yuri Kasdorp going to work his way through in the reverse grid? Because obviously, he has the measure of the field. He has the pace to create a 5-second gap over some of the quickest drivers on iRacing. So, all that said, it's never easy to pass cars in racing, so I think it's going to be very interesting to watch Yuri come through the field in the reverse grid race.
It's something we're definitely going to have to watch in race 2. And also, this is a really fast track. That's one thing we have to remember about this, is that it's a very tight, in some ways, fast track. When you get to the corners, you want to hug the curbs, and we'll see how he manages through that.
Yeah, the new Silverstone layout does have a few additional opportunities for overtakes, in fairness. I say the new Silverstone layout. I'm pretty sure it's been this way for more than 10 years now, but it does provide a few more opportunities for overtakes, which I believe was part of the reason for the change in the first place. And we'll have to see if Yuri is able to take advantage of that. Riding on board with Samsoid, looking back at Neto Nascimento, I feel like Samsoid would prefer to be focusing forward because he is within 2 seconds of his rival TK, and you can see him there on your screen. So he's not out of this one yet as far as beating his rival goes. I'm just chuckling because the idea of your rival being Indy 500 winner Tony Kanaan is just fun for me.
It is a chuckle, and what I like about them too is they're wearing the same livery.
Yeah, I have to admit I don't follow either of their sim racing exploits particularly closely, but would certainly not be surprised if they are teammates. I know I think they were both late additions to the race, so possible that they're two sim racing teammates who joined up as rivals, joined only to be immediately pitted against each other with money on the line. So even if they are teammates in the sim racing world, they are not right now.
So just looking at the chat, I saw a question about the rivals in regards to the reverse grid, and it's the best finish. It's not biggest gap, it's just who has the best finish in race 2. That's how the rivals work for race 2.
Yeah, it's the keep it simple stupid acronym, I think, works right there. It's not overly complex, and that's good. I think sometimes things don't need to be overly complex. it's a straight fight, and I think that's going to. It's a good point, though. You know, for rival groups that have been kind of split up in this race. You know, we've mentioned obviously Neto Nascimento and Ribs, two rivals that are a bit far apart on track. Ribs is going to have a lot of work ahead of him to finish ahead of his rival in race number 2, but certainly something he seems capable of doing. So we'll just have to wait and see, won't we?
Right now, riding on board with Emery, as she is currently in 5th place, looking at Ribs, who's right in front of her, about a second ahead.
Yeah, and this battle is kind of stabilized a little bit. Emery hasn't really. That was a big wiggle there. Yeah, it's always fun when you get a little sound effect from producer Marco in your ears. But yeah, she hasn't quite, or well, hasn't really at all been able to close the gap to Ribs or to her rival Daniel Morad up the road. So at the moment, just kind of holding station, maybe saving her stuff a little bit. We do have about 6 minutes left in the race, so not over yet by any means, but the gap doesn't seem to be going in the right way for her at the moment.
And for those that don't know, Emery races for McLaren Shadow.
Yeah, one of the big names in the sim racing game, McLaren obviously, and Emily is as well. She's super talented, and McLaren has done a lot for promoting sim racing, and with the McLaren Shadow program, brought a number of super talented drivers on board that compete in all of the championships they compete in. No McLaren GTE car though, unfortunately. I think there was talk earlier in GTE's life of the McLaren Senna maybe being a GTE car in the future, or a car you know, sort of designed to GTE regulations, but fortunately that didn't pan out.
Absolutely.
But,
I believe there's something on the McLaren Senna that you would only have for GT racing. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, and I'm sure someone in the chat will remind me, but there's a certain part on the McLaren Senna which was designed for GT racing in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a nice car. It's a shame GT doesn't seem like it's long for this world, at least at the pro level. Already announced that it will not be a part of IMSA next year, and does seem as though it's going to be put out to pasture in the WEC as well after a couple more years. But for the time being, we get to enjoy this really awesome racing class in the real world and the virtual world, which is excellent. Certainly, it's very popular on iRacing. I do a league that uses these cars. Neto definitely has some pace, but seems to be just having a little bit of trouble getting by. That is one of the weak points of the Porsche. Pretty much the only weak point of the Porsche, I have to say, in the current GTE balance of performance. It just doesn't have the legs in a straight line to set up a pass easily. You know, you really have to work it through a couple of corners and kind of bank on pressuring the driver in front to make a mistake, because it's pretty difficult to get a run built up in the Porsche. It's a lot of fun to drive because it really corners well. It's a bit tricky on the brakes, but I think that's part of the fun. So, but as we can see, Neto just struggling to make something happen. Ooh, was that almost a pass, or was that almost a crash on a successful pass?
A little bit of both.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I wasn't sure who was ahead at the start of that, but yeah, it looks like Mitch McLeod trying to work his way back forward, working on getting past Joshima's here, but wisely backed out of that one before being on the giving end of the exact same incident he was on the receiving end of earlier in this race.
And as we were talking about GTE cars, Tyler, no one's running the Corvette.
No one is running the Corvette. No one is running the Ford either, which I believe was an option. You know, different strengths and weaknesses to each of the cars. Honestly, the balance is at a pretty good point. But what that means is some cars just aren't as good at some of the tracks. where others are better, or some are better all-rounders. I know the BMW is a pretty solid all-rounder, or at least it was back when I raced these a lot. But ooh, as we see a side-by-side there, again with Joshua's and Mitch McLeod. Mitch
This is
just
a
trying
great
to work
battle
his
right
way
now.
forward as we are in the waning moments of this race. Just 2 minutes left to go, and I think we are on the penultimate lap of this race. I'll need to double check that, but yes, yeah, we are on the penultimate lap of this race. So just a few more opportunities for Mitch McLeod to get those valuable points. Obviously, he is ahead of his rival at the moment, Mr. Aero HD, but will want to get as many positions as he can, though he will start in a better position on the reverse. So it's a bit of 6 to 1, half dozen to the other there, I think. But he obviously wants to put on a show for everybody watching.
Cemento looking to make a pass earlier. He's just going to fall back in the line.
And it does seem as though Samsoid has closed the gap on TK. In fact, he has. That was a little over a second, and now it's just a bit under a second. So not over yet in that rival battle. Samsoid trying to make something happen on TK, but obviously still has to keep an eye on the mirrors as Nato Nascimento is still working to get through on Samsoid. Excuse me.
Cemento's looking. He's looked a few times. He's peeked out.
This is the closest battle on track at the moment besides this one. As Mitch McLeod and Joshua is still going at it for 13th position. Oh, we have an overtake. Sending it around the outside is Neto Nascimento. That was a fabulous move around the outside of Samsoid in the closing laps of this race.
Sending it was the perfect way to describe that one.
Yeah, as Mitch McLeod has also gotten by Joshua's here. So he has secured 13th place as we are heading to the white flag here. Well, they are. This driver, Yuri Kazdorp, is already on the white flag lap because he is about a minute up the road. Well, not quite, but almost a minute up the road from the battle we were just watching. Yeah, and he is 7 seconds ahead of Madison Down, who I think at this point has accepted his fate. He is not going to win this rival battle, but it does look like he has a pretty solid grasp on second place. Here is Neto Nascimento now trying to work on the other of this rival group, Tony Kanan, sending it down the inside. And, yeah, I think TK let him have that one. He knows his focus is on Samsoid in there behind him.
TK has to be careful because Samsoid's right on him.
Yeah, this is this rival battle is not over. Do have a couple rivals near each other position-wise, but these are the only two together on track. TK takes a bit of a defensive line there, but if there's a corner where you can hold that inside line, it's that one, as he holds on to the position. Not many more opportunities. We will have the long straight as they head past the old start finish line. It's always tough around Silverstone because with the old start finish line and the new start finish line, you sometimes forget where you are. But they still have about half a lap to go. And Yuri Kazdorp does not have many more corners to go. In fact, just one. And he will secure the first win in the Trax and CoinJar Invitational Championship with a dominating performance. And now needs to get ready to work his way from the back in race number 2. Madison Down comes home in second. Daniel Morad rounds out your podium. Then it will be Ribs and Emery in 4th and 5th. As this battle is still going on, Samsoid trying to find a way around TK, who takes the firm defensive positioning there. That's how you defend your position, and TK no doubt has done that a few times in the real world as well as the virtual world. He will hold on to win that rival battle. Back here is the battle for 17th between Pheasant and Ponden. Daniel Gray not out of this either in 16th position. As they work their way down the back straight for the final time. Ooh, bit of the lockup, yeah, by Pheasant there as he was trying to see if he could make something happen on Daniel Gray. Pondon with the student driver livery, a bit apt as he will come across the line in 18th and last position. But more still to play for here today as we head to the reverse grid race. We'll get the results up there for you in just a moment. Not quite yet. Sorry, folks, just having a little hesitation with the results here. While we're waiting for that, if you're just joining us, you are watching the Trax and CoinJar Invitational Championship. But there is something that you can participate in, because Trax is a month-to-month, wheel-to-wheel GT and Formula Championship based on each driver's skill level. You will be assigned to your division and be able to work your way up the ranks while also earning Bitcoin. Trax is powered by CoinJar. Join Trax today to start earning crypto from your hobby. And we have now the results for you. Your race winner, Yuri Kazdorp, ahead of his rival, Madison Down. They will start in the last row of the grid for race number 2. Daniel Morad comes home in 3rd, ahead of Ahmed Garib. That's Ribs in 4th. Emily Jones, or Emery, was 5th, ahead of Tyson Meyer, Quirkatized in 6th. Russell Barnes from Finding Speed in 7th, ahead of Neto Nascimento from the channel of the same name in 8th. Tony Kanan, that's TK, was 9th place, ahead of David Sampson, Samsoid. Violet Miller, Violet GT, was 11th. Trevor Jackson, Sakame, in 12th. Mitch McLeod, also Mitch McLeod, in 13th, ahead of Josh Edwards, that's Joshua's. Keenan Kusin, Mr. Arrow HD, finished 15th, ahead of Daniel Gray 10. Martin McDermott, Pheasant, was in 17th, and Blake Dalton, Pondon, rounded out your field. We have a driver waiting to talk to us, so I am going to go ahead and grab him and bring him in. Daniel Morad, how are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. What a race. What a nail biter.
Yeah, certainly a podium finish for you, and eventually you got a car in between yourself and your rival, Emily Jones, but that was pretty close between the two of you for the first part of that race.
Yeah, I mean, it looked spaced out probably on the broadcast, but I mean, the competition, the level's so high that one mistake really would compromise you. So really, it came down to the first lap performance. I mean, I can't say, I don't know what everyone else's situation is, but I made this setup for the car like an hour before the session opened. So I would say it's far from ideal, but yeah, definitely proud of that first lap. Put the car in the right position on track, scooped up 2 spots, and maintained for the rest of the race. No mistakes as well, but I thought I might just be able to put a little bit of pressure on Madison. It looked like he was cracking, but you know, at one point he calmed down and just started putting in consistent laps, and seemed just to be like a half a tenth quicker than me every lap. And I was trying my best, but I didn't want to over push. I knew where I was. I was ahead of Emily. That's all that counts, apparently.
Yeah, that is certainly good, and you set yourself up with some solid points for 3rd as well, I'm sure. Now with the reverse grid, how do you feel going into race number 2, starting from the back? Are you a bit nervous, or it seemed like a pretty clean race? Everyone minding their P's and Q's in race number 1. Do we expect the same from race number 2?
I think everyone's going to be a little bit more aggressive race 2 because they know, I mean, you're starting in the back. For the guys that finished up front in Heat 1, it's kind of full send time. So I think it's going to be aggressive. We'll see how it all plays out. But I have a lot of experience with reverse grids. On Mondays, I host a series called Monday Madness with Moradness. So we have a bunch of pro drivers in there from real life GT3 racers and also fans, and we have a reverse grid. So it's something I'm very familiar with. So we'll just see if we can get through the madness.
Absolutely, the Moradness, as it were.
A Moradness madness. Or I could be on my roof after lap 1. We'll see. Either way, it's going to be a fun time, and yeah, I'm sure it's going to be fun for all you guys watching as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned this at the beginning of the stream, but Daniel, how does one end up with a sim rig with voice-activated cooling fans? Because I was watching your stream before, and that just blew me away. That well, first of all, I didn't think of it, and that second of all, that you had that amazing of a setup.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, in iRacing there are aliens on the track, and then there are aliens behind the sim rig on Twitch. Which, if you want to see those lights, you can check it out on Moradness on Twitch. But yeah, everything's kind of voice activated through my smart assistant. I have lights that activate when I have new followers or subs. People can distract. Oh no, don't distract me. There's a command for that. You can distract me. Not now though. Okay, in 25 minutes from now. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to this. I'm gonna go grid now. We have 40 seconds.
Fair enough. We'll let you go. Thanks for joining us in the booth, and good luck in race 2.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy it.
The ever entertaining Mr. Daniel Morad. It's nice to join us in between races.
Really excellent, excellent guy. Talented racer, of course, and has, I think, really capitalized on the sim racing boom that happened with the pandemic and the lockdowns, and has made himself made a name for himself in the sim racing world as much as in the real world. So good to talk to him, of course. And unfortunately, I think we kept him from doing any warm up for race number 2, but hopefully he got enough practice in race number 1. He'll be all right.
So as we were talking to Mr. Moraz, looking at the chat and finding speed posted, I beat Kanan in all caps. Someone prep my gravestone.
Yeah, that's. I think a lot of us would like to have that that opportunity. As we see Pondon leading the field to green in that yellow BMW, and I think he's already gone. Nope, he's backed off a little bit for the final corner, but yes, now he is on his way. The field works their way around the final corner, and we are green for race number 2 here in the Trax CoinJar Invitational Championship. Pondon, ooh, that was somebody sideways. Was that Samsoid? Oh, as we got, oh dear.
Oh!
That was Yuri Kazdorp, our race 1 winner, flying through the air in the second corner. I think there was a couple of Porsches that got together in front of him, and he was an innocent bystander. There's more contact. That is the Finding Speed car around. We see Pheasant in the Ferrari dropping back. He was our outside pole sitter. And this is Mitch McLeod working his way to the front rapidly, taking advantage of the chaos. He and TK, as there was a spin there for Joshima's. I didn't see who got into him, but he definitely had help on that one, as we are having trouble keeping our eyes on all the action here, but there was quite a bit of chaos. The drivers who have dropped the most are Violet GT, Ribs, and Samsoid. So I think that was...
Now has some battle damage.
Potentially. Well, pretty much everyone from kind of midfield on back at the start was involved in that opening incident, but those are the 3 who have lost the most. So I think they might have been kind of at the epicenter of that. Yuri Kazdorp is up 4 spots, but obviously he would potentially be up more if it hadn't been for the contact early in that
fly through the air. And Mitch McLeod's now taking the lead. Yeah, here's Madison down. He is missing an entire front end.
And despite all that, he's up 10 positions into 7th place. It's another 25-minute race, so it certainly will be a nail biter here as we see the damaged cars working their way through the field. Here's the onboard of Yuri Kazdorp. So it was Samsoid who got sideways at the start, and then it was Violet GT, and I didn't catch who the other car in it was, but Yuri just got absolutely launched.
I believe that was one of the finding speed. I think that was him in that.
I think he was later on. I remember seeing him spun out a little bit further up the track. Yeah.
Ooh.
That is Pheasant in the Ferrari, the lone Ferrari in the field, gone for a spin there. As we see, oh, there's a nudge from Madison down on the back of, is that Mr. Aero HD? I think it is. Neto Nascimento also in that one.
On board with Madison down. And now up with Mr. Kanan.
Yeah, TK has made a stellar launch through the field up to third place. He's working now on Pondin, our pole sitter, but he's got a ways to go if he's going to catch Mitch McLeod, who is scampered off to a 3.5 second lead in this race. Looks like Pondin giving TK the inside a bit there, but he holds steady around the outside and is going to hold on to that position. Oh, that was Neto Nascimento sending it down the inside, and now Madison down going for a spin. It looked like everyone was content to just sit in line there and let that happen, but
laps. Wow.
My goodness. Yeah, Neto Nascimento is not waiting for anybody. He has moved up into second place already. And it looks like this time he's done it without making any contact, which is good. He's been a hard charger all day. But definitely one of the biggest movers. Oh no, that's Pondin going for a spin with TK. Oh dear. Oh, and that was Emily Jones having to dodge, duck, dip, dive, anything she could to get out of that one. But there is Samsoid missing the front of his car. Lots of BMWs looking like that so far. As we see Daniel Morad working his way forward. He's actually right in there behind his rival, Emery, who we just saw avoiding that incident.
Is there a car out there that doesn't have any type of battle damage on it? I don't think so.
I think Mitch McLeod is clean out in the lead. Obviously, he had his spin in race one, but it set him up well in the reverse because I think he was ahead of it all, which is good for him. And he is stretching his gap over Neto Nascimento at the moment, now almost 5 seconds.
And here's Dave. Here's Samsonoid missing another BMW missing a front end as he's behind Daniel Gray.
This gaggle, including two cars who started on the front row. That is Pheasant and Pondin, excuse me. Joshima's in ahead of those two. And Violet GT recovering from her lap one spin, trying to get through. I think she might have come in and taken a faster pair because she was definitely involved pretty heavily in that first wreck, and that car looked remarkably clean. No pit stop for her. Okay. I guess she certainly spun, but I guess she avoided major contact, excuse me, in that kerfuffle at the start. So looking at the lap time, she's going to be moving forward. What was that?
Speaking of pits, Ribs and Yuri Kasdorp are both in the pits.
Yeah, they've both been in there since the start, I believe.
See what
fortunate for.
This is the replay of the start.
Yeah, so.
Oh.
Yeah, incredibly lucky was Violet GT to not get significant damage from that. But yeah, she continues on and is working her way back through the field, obviously set back from that. But she is now right in behind her rival Daniel Gray About 2 seconds up the road is Daniel, but she is trying to close that down. The other battle between rivals that is close on track at the moment is the aforementioned Emery and Daniel Morad. Daniel does seem to just have a little bit of pace on Emery at the moment. They both have a decent amount of damage, so neither of them are driving at, I think, their optimal pace. But Daniel, who we just talked to between races, is just managing to close that gap down a little bit.
On board with finding speed, with Madison down in front of him and Tony Kanaan in front of them. Finding speed is up 3 spots from where he started in the race.
Yeah, he was, well, we saw him spun either, I think it was in turn 3, somewhere kind of after all the chaos at the start. So he's done well to get himself recovered and back up through the field, because he was definitely facing the wrong way at some point. Then again, if you look at the cars around him, they all were. Madison Down, TK have all been involved in something or other. So this is kind of the group of cars that were escaped with the, well, I was going to say escape with the least amount of damage, but I don't think I can justifiably look at Madison Down's car and say he escaped with the least amount of damage. But escaped with the least amount of time lost, I think, is the way to put it.
And let's give him credit. He's up 10 spots from where he started, along with Daniel Morad. And a big shout out to who's running at third place, Quirkikized. You know, we haven't mentioned his name most of the race, and he's in third place, and he's up 10 spots.
Yeah, fantastic effort from him. That's a tie for the biggest mover of the race. Daniel Morad and Madison Down are both also up 10 spots. But yeah, very good point. He was kind of mid-pack in race number 1, but done a really good job here of staying out of trouble, and currently finds himself in a podium position and well clear of his rival, who we're on board with right now. That is Russell Barnes in the Finding Speed car. And here is that battle for 4th place, which also includes the battle for 5th and 6th between rivals Emery and Daniel Morad. They are right there together, and it does seem that Mr. Aero HD just holding him up a little bit. He's currently in 4th, which is where he started. Done a good job to hang on to that, but looks like he might be dropping back a little bit in the near future. There is Emery getting through. Daniel Morad next up to make the move, but has to wait just a few corners.
There's a battle for 2nd, Nascimento and Quirkikized. Nascimento with the defensive line there. And we go back to this battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th with Emery, Daniel Morad, and Mr. Aero HD.
And this is the battle for 2nd between, as you were mentioning, Quirkitai's done an excellent job to get up here, now working on Neto Nascimento. And those two have both closed a little bit the gap to race leader Mitch McLeod, though they'll need to do more work to make a win happen. But Neto just defending a little bit there.
We are going back to our battle for 4th and 5th. Now back up to our battle for 2nd and 3rd. Quirkitai's looking up, looking. And there's no place to pass going into this complex. Ooh, he could get a run here.
Yeah, this is a good place to make an overtake happen. gets a decent run out of the corner, but the BMW should have a bit of grunt on the straight.
We also know Nascimento's not afraid to send it, as we learned from race 1.
No, and from this race as well. I mean, the moves he put on to get to second place were mighty impressive, if a little bit aggressive. So he is not going to roll over and let Quirketize have this one for sure. Head through Maggots and Beckett's once again.
These are two both really experienced sim racers. Nascimento is a 21-time national champion in sim racing. Quirketize, he drives for Alpine Stars Geocetic in iRacing in the iRacing series. So these are two well-experienced racers.
Absolutely, yeah. This is a fight that we can expect to last as long as it takes. As Quirketize just trying to work his way around the outside. He set himself up well. That was a great run through the corner. Excellent overtaking maneuver, and he's got the position for now. We'll see if Neto is able to make the charge back, but at the moment, that position belongs to Quirketize. Meanwhile, we see the battle for 14th position. That's Daniel Gray with Pheasant in the Ferrari, and behind him, Pandon. We started on pole today. Actually, both of our front row starters in this battle. Pandon and Pheasant there battling now for 15th and 16th. Oh! Saw that coming a little bit, but Pheasant, good man, good sportsmanship. Knows he made a mistake there, waits to redress the position to Pandon. But yeah.
Yeah.
A little ambitious. It happens. We've all done it. But yeah, he gave the position back, so no harm, no foul there.
No, he knew. He knew.
Yeah, we all make mistakes. Just a little too deep on the brakes, a little overconfident, but that's all right. They continue their battle for 15th place. And I didn't note, but in that battle for 13th, Violet GT has gotten by Daniel Gray. That's two rivals there. So that battle is for the all-important points in this rivals race. And it looks like Violet GT just has the pace a little bit on Daniel Gray at the moment.
Yeah, looking at their lapse times last time around, Violet with the 2-minute flat and Daniel Gray with a 2:01. So yeah, so Violet's definitely got the pace compared to Gray.
At the front, it is still, it's still Mitch McLeod, though Quirketize has just set the fastest lap of the race, a 1:55.6. That's around about 3/4 of a second off of the fastest laps from race number 1, I believe. So not really hitting the pace we were in race number 1, but one of the top drivers is out and the other doesn't have a front end. So not all that surprising when the super quick guys have been up race cars that they're not quite hitting the lap times that we might expect to see. But all said, Quirketize is closing that gap down, but he doesn't have a ton of time to do it. We're in under 10 minutes left in this race, so he's got to get a move on if he's going to make something happen for the race win.
Yeah, looking at our lovely SDK live timing here, Quirketize has gone purple a few times over the race. So let's see what happens over these last 9 minutes or so.
Yeah, the only other driver who's set a lap in the 55s in this race is Neto Nascimento in 3rd place. So definitely Quirketize seems to have the quickest car at the moment. Probably something to do with the fact that he's one of, I think, maybe 2 or 3 undamaged cars in the field. As we ride on board with Daniel Morad, and he is all over the back bumper of Emily Jones here. He is really pushing. This is for a rival battle. Of course, Emily holding that position down at the moment, but Daniel clearly wants through.
So we look out the back of Emery's car, a damaged wing on the Porsche 911.
And you can see the damaged left front of Daniel Morad's BMW, and I think a damaged right front as well. So everyone's got a little bit of damage here, but you know, it just re-levels the playing field at a slightly lower level, doesn't it? It's all about that that level playing field, finding your rival, finding someone to battle here in the Trax Championship. This, of course, the Trax CoinJar Invitational Championship, but it is in preparation for and in lead up to a championship for everybody, an open championship with Trax and CoinJar, which anyone can go ahead and sign up for at trax.racing. That's the URL, trax.racing. Go ahead and sign up. Trax it's a month-to-month, wheel-to-wheel Formula and GT championship. And as we've been talking about all day, based on each driver's skill level, you will be assigned to a division and be able to work your way up the ranks while also earning Bitcoin. Trax is powered by CoinJar. Join Trax today and start earning crypto from your hobby. Sure wish I was good enough at sim racing for someone to pay me, John.
Oh, same here. I wish I was. I wish I had more time to sim race.
Very much so, yeah.
We have this battle for 4th and 5th between Emery and Daniel Morad, who've been this way for pretty much most of the race.
And most of the first race as well. Obviously, you know, a lot of the...
And this is what's great about the whole rivals thing, is that you're paired up with someone who's close to your iRating. And this is the perfect example of that. We have two people neck and neck, very similar iRatings, and it's creating close racing.
Absolutely. You can actually see the driver's iRatings on the screen to get a sense of, you know, why the rivals are the way they are. And of course, you know, iRating isn't the end-all be-all. There are definitely some people who are underrated or overrated, but, you know, I think what it comes down to is, I think you can pretty safely say for the vast majority of people, plus or minus 500 iRating, you really get a good sense of somebody's pace, you know. Obviously, changing cars might affect it. If you don't do a ton of official races, it might affect it. But by and large, I feel like, you know, you get, well, there's a reason that it's been pretty much unchanged since iRacing started. It's because as a matchmaking tool, it's kind of one of the best out there. And we can obviously see it, you know, iRacing just does it to put people into splits, but with this rivals concept, it really kind of takes it to the next level, and we can see it playing out here. You can see the strength of field on the screen, 3.2K. I shouldn't, you know, be chuckling at that, because I've just gotten my iRating up over 3,000. I think I'm at 3,400 now. But it's been kind of a rapid rise because I've been driving in the series that are, you know, not as popular. And I still think of myself as like that, you know, kind of 2K, 2.5K range. Right. But all that said, you know, I would still match up against somebody in the Trax system. And yeah, as much as I've been talking about Trax, John, I think I'm probably going to go ahead and sign up once this is all over, because I think it's a pretty cool idea.
It's a brilliant idea. It's such a great way to kind of, you know, to see your level of where you're at, and also, you know, improve yourself. You can see where other people are at.
Absolutely.
And yeah, maybe win some Bitcoin, some crypto as well. I mean, you can't beat that.
For sure, for sure. This battle, back to the action on track. This battle continuing to rage on between Emery, Daniel Morad, and Madison Down, who is clearly, you know, we know Madison is quick because he was, well, pretty solidly second in race number 1, but at the moment
he looks like he's racing at Martinsville, not Silverstone, with that, the way that car looks. Yeah,
some U.S. short track, it really, you just need to knock the rest of the fenders off it and call it a modified. We've got a new racing series there, but we see this battle continuing to, I kind of thought that when Quirketize got through on Neto, he was going to pull away a bit, but really, Neto Nascimento has been able to close that gap right back up. And those two are not going to catch Mitch McLeod before this race is over. As quick as Quirketize has been, that gap is not coming down fast enough as we're suddenly within the last few minutes of this race.
And going back to Quirketize and Nascimento, looking at their last laps, you know, Quirketize ran a 56.38 and Nascimento ran a 56.39. So even Steven right there.
Yeah, close as it's going to get between those two. It's definitely not over. And of course, you know, as much as we talk about the rival system, there are overall championship points as well. So you do, it does pay to finish ahead, even if it's not ahead of your rival. Definitely, Neto is going to want to get through if he can. And, you know, they're racers. We're all racers. So you don't want to say, yeah, I could have finished ahead of him, but I didn't, because, you know, I didn't need to. That's not, I don't think that's in the mindset of any of these drivers out there today.
Absolutely. It's because we have rival races and we have overall races too. And this is a multi-race series. This isn't a one-off, so, you know, the best, it could help you later on as we get back, you know, 2 weeks from now.
Yep, and we are on the final lap of this race. And I just saw the lead gap pretty rapidly go down. I don't know if Mitch McLeod made a little mistake there, but suddenly that gap is under 3.5 seconds where it was over 4. So you can see the second and third place cars in the background there. But I still think they're a little bit too far back. Assuming we are on the white flag lap, I think we got that. Do we know, Marco? We're not sure. We're not sure if it's the white flag lap.
We're about a lap and a half.
We've been given from our producer a 66.5% chance that this is the last lap. I was a little close to call it the line, so we'll let you know once he goes around again, if he goes around again. But it does seem like Mitch McLeod still has a pretty firm handle on this race, as he has pretty much from the start. Obviously, he had to pass a few cars on the reverse grid, but he's been pretty well in control for most of this today.
Yeah, McLeod has run a solid race up front. He hasn't really had any issues until just recently when we saw he lost to maybe a second or so, but he's had no trouble. He's running really smoothly. You know, Quirketize and Nascimento haven't really been able to get to him.
It's just working through the final couple of corners now, and this is the last lap. So this is going to be for the win for Mitch McLeod. So after a spin in race 1, bounces back for a phenomenal performance, a dominating performance in race number 2 for the win. And it looks as though Emily Jones is going to be able to secure that rival win over Daniel Morad. And indeed she does. So good job on her end. A lot of the other rival pairs were split up by that early incident, as TK is going to beat his rival Sam Soy. Mr. Aero HD obviously did not beat his rival Mitch McLeod, who is our race winner. Josh Moose looks like he's going to finish ahead of his rival Pandit. And Violet GT should, I believe, though they're still a little bit away from the checkered flag. But I think she's got a pretty decent gap over her rival Daniel Grimm. So solid recovery from her after her involvement in the lap 1 incident to secure that rival win, as we see. I think that was Mitch McLeod doing some donuts, perhaps, as we see coming together of BMWs after the finish line. Everybody doing some donuts
from everyone.
Yeah. And why not? What a fun race that was. And should mention too, this is not the only event in this Invitational Championship. You get to see everybody out there once again, although next time they're going to be in some Formula cars, and they're going to be around a different track, which has suddenly slipped my mind. Circuit of the Americas, that's what it was. We'll be bringing that to you in a couple weeks' time here on Apex Racing TV. But for the time being, we are going to get the results for you right there. So, race number 2 results. Mitch McLeod is your race winner ahead of Tyson Meyer. Neto Nascimento comes home in 3rd ahead of Emily Jones. Daniel Morad, just barely losing out in his rival battle in race number 2, comes home in 5th. Madison Down brings that damaged BMW home in 6th ahead of Russell Barnes. Tony Kanan in 8th. Keenan Kusin in 9th. Trevor Jackson in 10th. David Sampson in 11th. Josh Edwards in 12th. Violet Miller 13th. Daniel Gray in 14th. Blake Dalton comes home in 15th ahead of Martin McDermott. And Yuri Kazdorp and Ahmed Garib did not complete the first lap, unfortunately, after strong performances from both of them in race number 1. Unfortunately, was not meant to be in race number 2.
Yeah, Yuri got a little aerial at the beginning, and that kind of put a damper on this day. But looking at the race 2 results, a lot of credit goes out to Daniel Morad and Madison Down for really climbing through the field. They got really fortunate due to a couple first lap incidents, and as we saw, Madsen was banged up quite a bit, but they were able to kind of climb through and get into 5 and 6.
Yeah, and don't sleep on Quirkatized and Emery as well. Both up double-digit positions from their starting position. So those are the ones really able to capitalize on the reverse grid. Of course, Mitch McLeod, our race 2 winner, capitalized from a somewhat poor race 1 to secure the race 2 win. So just looking to see if we're going to have anybody looking for an interview. I don't see anyone at the moment, but take the time to remind you that while you are enjoying your favorite content creators on track today and throughout the Invitational Championship, you will get to participate in a Trax Championship of your own. If you head on over to trax.racing, you can sign up there. The championship will start in May. There is Bitcoin prizes on offer, thanks to CoinJar. You get to see all the cool features like the rival system that you saw out there today. You get to partake in it. So go ahead, head to trax.racing.com or trax.racing. That's it. Trax.racing, not .com, to sign up. Apologies to the folks at Trax. I muffed that one, but that's where you can sign up to participate. And that is that. I don't see anybody waiting, so John, I'll pass it to you for any closing thoughts you might have from today's race.
Great racing. First off, we had some really exciting battles up and down. The rivals concept is fantastic. You may not be able at the front, but you're going to be racing against someone who's really close to you. As we saw, Yuri Kazdorp dominated that first race. We get to the second race, and we get carnage in the first 2 laps. I mean, it was wild. We had cars flipping, flying. Cars end up looking like NASCAR modifieds, at points. And you could see who the really strong drivers were because they were able to move through the pack. We saw people like Madison Down, Daniel Morad, Emery, Quirkatize. They were able to make it through and get into, some in the top 6. So super exciting. And then 2 weeks from now, we're doing something completely different. We're going to Dakota, a very different track from Silverstone, which is one of the traditional granddaddies, and we're going to be racing Formula 3 cars. A completely different kettle of fish compared to these big, powerful GTE cars.
Yeah, completely different, but of course, we still get the championship drivers for the Invitational Championship. We still get the rival system. What I don't know is if they're going to reset the rivals for that race. I think we're going to see the same pairs for that race. We'll have to find out from somebody at Trax, but yeah, that'll be right here on Apex Racing TV for you on the 30th. Looking forward to bring that to you. But I think that about does it from everybody here at Apex Racing TV. We thank you for watching. We hope to see you up next time. And Jonathan, I'm just going to leave it to you to say goodbye, and we can close it out.
Tyler, thank you for joining me on the broadcast today, and a big thank you to our wonderful producer extraordinaire, Marco Barbonera, and most importantly, thanks to everyone watching, and thanks to Trax and CoinJar for putting on this exceptional invitational. And we will see you in 2 weeks. So long for now.